Today I'm showing you how to elevate your Christmas sides into dishes that will have your guests running for more. Simple roasted veggies are great, but you know what's better? Roasted garlic cauliflower cheese, this show-stopping glazed celeriac, Moorish polenta and rosemary crusted parsnips, or these pomegranate glazed carrots with a topping that makes them irresistible. Oh, and by the way, my name is George. I've been cooking since I was 12 and I post a new cooking video every week. And hopefully I'm not too late to change your Christmas plans with these delicious side dishes. Let's get cooking. To start things off, we're making this showstopper glazed celeriac, which is absolutely going to steal the show from your main dish. To start, we're going to make a flavored stock to simmer the celeriac in. So I'm just going to crumble in some veggie stock cube into boiling water. Then I'm adding a couple couple garlic cloves. It's been a long day. Also going to add in some black peppercorns, a tablespoon of dark soy to give it a lovely rich umami flavor. And then because we're kind of imitating a glazed ham, I'm going to add in some beetroot, and that's going to help color it really nicely. So now we're going to prepare this big old celeriac. I'm going to start at the root end, which can get really muddy, and just use my knife to sort of shave it off. I like to use my knife for this bit just because it is really muddy and quite tough. And then for the rest of the celeriac, I'll use a peeler. So I've just trimmed off the top, and I'm going to use my peeler to do the rest. You can use a knife, but you risk taking off too much of the actual sort of celeriac flesh. So I like to use a peeler. It's fairly quick. If you've got a good peeler, it won't take long at all. Kind of like peeling just a ginormous apple. So there we have a nice peeled celeriac ready to go into the stock. Before we add the celeriac to the stock, we're just going to score it in a diamond pattern. And this is going to help infuse the flavor. And then carefully place it into your stock. Pop a lid on top and we'll simmer that for about 35 minutes. Having a lid on will help trap the steam and cook it quicker. While the celeriac cooks, we're going to make a quick glaze, starting with some cranberry sauce. And to that, I'm going to add some Dijon mustard. Then some granulated sugar. This adds a really nice crunch. Touch of maple syrup. And then the zest of half an orange, or I'm going to be using half a satsuma here, just because that's what I've got. And we're going to add the juice as well. And then just whisk that until smooth. And that is our cranberry glaze ready for the celeriac. Halfway through the cooking of the celeriac, I'm just going to turn it upside down, because it is doing a little bit of floating, but with the lid on, the steam should cook it quite nicely. I've given the celeriac 40 minutes, and you should be able to slide a knife in fairly easily, but there will be a little bit of resistance, which is absolutely fine because we're now going to roast it. So I'm just going to remove it and place it onto a baking tray. Don't throw away the stock, you can make a lovely gravy or soup with it. So I've got the celeriac on the crisper basket of my air fryer, and then I've got some baking paper on top, and I'm going to brush on that glaze really generously. And we're going to glaze it throughout the cooking process, probably every maybe 10 minutes. I'm going to add more glaze. I'm actually going to score it again because I really want this to get into the celeriac. And then that's going to go straight into the air fryer. Nearly forgot, I'm adding in this garlic to get roasted, ready for the cauliflower cheese. So the celeriac has had its first 10 minutes and we're going to add our next layer of glaze. Starting to look incredible already. Be really generous with the glaze as well. And I totally forgot I was going to stud it with some whole cloves, which is what my mum used to do with the Christmas ham. Just this time, we're doing it with celeriac for a plant-based version. And that's going to infuse a lovely, warming, spicy flavor. And then back into the air fryer for another 10 minutes. The celeriac is really starting to take a nice color on, so we're going to add another layer of glaze. It's smelling incredible. It's really bringing back some Christmas memories, which is lovely. And then I'll pop that back into the air fryer. Another 10 minutes has passed and we're going to give it another glaze. I've tested it with the knife again and I think it needs another 5 to 10 minutes before it's nice and tender inside. And there you go, the most beautiful cranberry and mustard glazed celeriac. That is just slicing so beautifully. The celeriac is beautifully tender, and then you've got that lovely caramelized, sweet, tangy, and slightly spiced outside, which is just so delicious. This would be great as part of a roast, or I think it'd be really nice just on some crackers, maybe with some cashew cream, really delicious. Next up, we're making an indulgent roasted garlic cauliflower cheese. Before we start the bechamel, we're going to blanch the cauliflower in some boiling water. Then add your cauliflower and we'll cook that for 5 minutes. For the bechamel sauce, we're going to start by melting some vegan butter. And then once that butter is melted and sizzling, we're going to add in our plain flour and just stir that through. We're then going to squeeze in that beautifully roasted garlic. It's going to be really mellow and sweet now that we've roasted it. Add a lovely flavor to this bechamel. It's nearly the end of December, so soon I'll be posting my quarterly recipe PDF for you to download. It's going to have all of my recipes from the last 3 months on YouTube, and all you have to do is scan this QR code and become a member. There'll also be a link in the description box. And then stir through the garlic, sort of smush it in with the back of your spoon. I've only used a small bulb of garlic today, but you could definitely use a bigger one in my opinion. I'm then going to add some really concentrated veggie stock. This is half a veggie stock cube mixed into 50 ml of boiling water. And now we're just going to slowly add in our plant-based milk. And you want to do this a little bit at a time, as you don't want a lumpy sauce. Now you can use a whisk at this point and that will make it a lot easier. Our whisk has just broken, so I'm sticking with the wooden spoon. I should be fine with the wooden spoon as long as I add the milk in gradually. In terms of the milk you could use hazelnut milk, you could use oat milk. I'm going to be using soy milk here. My preference probably would be oat milk, but second favorite would be soy. So I've added all the milk now and we just need to cook out the flour for a few minutes. But first we're just going to add a few optional seasonings. First is a little Dijon mustard. I do actually prefer to use English mustard, but I don't have any. Dijon mustard can be quite hot, so don't go too crazy with that. Then we're getting out the big boy tub of nutritional yeast. Add in a good tablespoon, maybe a little bit more actually. A little white miso. That adds a nice sort of tangy, cheesy note that goes amazingly with the nutritional yeast as well. We're not adding any vegan cheese to this. You are welcome to, but personally I'm not a huge fan of the taste of most vegan cheeses. And I always like a little grating of fresh nutmeg in my bechamel. That's really lovely. Nice warming spice. And then last to go in is a good crack of black pepper. And I've actually got one more optional ingredient, and that is tapioca starch. Probably should have diluted it in water. Okay, so that was my mistake. If you're going to use tapioca starch, definitely dilute it in some water first, just like a couple tablespoons. But I think I've saved it. I've just whisked it in with this little mini whisk. And the tapioca starch is just going to make it kind of slightly stringy, almost like cheese. Give it a little bit of a stretch, which I think is really nice. And you don't have to add much. I've only used about a teaspoon here, and that's given it a really nice texture. Okay, so we're going to get our cauliflower into a baking dish and then pour on that lovely sauce. Ooh, that's hot. Now some people will just leave the sauce on top, but personally I do like to mix it through a little bit. And originally I was going to make a sort of sage, breadcrumb and chestnut crumb to go on top. But then I was thinking, if I was going to have this cauliflower cheese, I would just want it plain, just keep it classic. So that's what we're going for today. All that's left to do now is bake it until beautifully golden. And there you go, the most beautiful cauliflower cheese. And by adding that tapioca starch, you get the most amazing crispy and golden top. You really can't beat a cauliflower cheese. It just brings me straight back to my childhood, and this one is particularly good. If you had given this to me before I went plant-based, I would have believed that it was just a regular dairy cheese one. It really is that tasty. Adding in those additional flavorings like the white miso, the nutritional yeast, and the mustard really does just complete this cauliflower cheese. And then the tapioca starch helps give it that lovely golden crust and a slight sort of more cheesy texture. The next two sides are a little bit easier than the last two. We're starting with these Moorish polenta and rosemary crusted parsnips. For the polenta crusted parsnips, we're going to start by simply peeling the parsnips. I feel like parsnips are one of those vegetables that people either love or hate. When you get this rosemary and polenta crumb on them, They are so delicious, especially for people who aren't necessarily a really big fan of them. And then we'll just remove the top bottom, trying to remove as little as possible. You can really do any shape you like. I'm gonna go for these sort of long sticks, almost like chips, which I quite like. They get really nice and crispy. Now you don't have to blanch parsnips before you roast them, but personally I love to do it in some really heavily salted water. This is similar to how you would do roast potatoes. We'll drain them and then fluff them up in the colander so you get a really nice crispy outside. These are quite thin parsnips, so I've only given them like 3, maybe 4 minutes maximum, and then we'll strain them off. Just leave them to steam and dry out a little bit, maybe for 4-5 minutes. So I'm just gonna add the parsnips to a bowl and just give them a little bit of a shake to sort of rough up the edges. Then I'll go in with a tablespoon of olive oil, and just lightly toss to coat. Then we can sprinkle over the polenta, the rosemary, pinch of sea salt, and since we've got this mega tub of nutritional yeast, we may as well use some. I'm just going to sort of grind it through my fingers so that it sticks better, and then just a crack of black pepper, of course. Can't forget that. I'm actually going to go in with my hands this time and get them really well coated in these seasonings and the polenta. I'm using my air fryer, so I'm going to lay them out onto this crisper tray, but you can just use a baking tray if you're not going to use an air fryer, and then just space them out so they've all got space to get crispy. You could also use semolina, just bear in mind that it does contain gluten, and then just air fry or roast these until golden and crispy. This is definitely my favorite way to cook parsnip. Crunchy. I'm going to be honest, I've let these go cold, so they're not quite their best, but they're still really tasty. Crunchy outside, fluffy and soft in the middle, and then you've got that Moorish polenta and rosemary crust. Give these a go. Last but not least, we've got these addictive pomegranate glazed carrots with a pistachio, parsley, and pumpkin seed crumb. I've got these really nice rainbow carrots, so I'm going to slice them on an angle. So that we can really see the inside colors, because they are really stunning. We've got some really lovely purple ones here, and some yellow ones, and also the classic orange. Just slice them all on an angle, make these sort of long discs, almost oblong type shapes. We're going to season these quite simply because we've got an amazing glaze and a crumb going on these. Then a pinch of salt and pepper. And the only proper seasoning I'm adding is just some lightly ground coriander seeds. These will add a lovely citrusy, lemony flavor, which is going to go lovely with the pomegranate molasses glaze. And the glaze is going to go on once the carrots have started cooking. Give them a little toss and get them coated in that seasoning. So I've just added the carrots into the air fryer. I'll spread them out so they're nice and even, and we'll roast them until nearly cooked and then add in the glaze. The glaze is really simple. We're just going to add some pomegranate molasses, which is lovely, fruity and tangy, really delicious. A touch of demerara sugar just to balance the sort of tartness, and some lemon juice. And then just give that a whisk and we'll pour it over the carrots. So the carrots have got some nice color, they're nearly cooked, and we're just going to pour over the pomegranate glaze. Give them a little toss and then we'll finish them off for just a few minutes until they're nice and sticky. The green crumb is really simple. Just start by adding some pumpkin seeds to a pan. They've just been roughly chopped. This is a dry pan and it's over a medium heat. We're then going to add in some pistachio nuts, also roughly chopped. And we're just going to toast them for about 2 or 3 minutes until they're starting to go slightly golden. Those are starting to toast now, and we're going to add a tablespoon of breadcrumbs. Now optionally, you can now add a drizzle of olive oil, and that's going to help get those breadcrumbs really nice and crunchy. I'm going to add a pinch of sea salt as well. As soon as those breadcrumbs become nice and golden, switch off the heat. We'll then add in some finely chopped fresh parsley, and we'll add in some lemon zest as well. The aromas coming from this pan right now are so beautiful. Stir that through, and that is your golden green crumb ready to go on those carrots. That will definitely take your carrots to the next level. If you've never tried pomegranate molasses, then this is your sign to give it a go. The tartness of the pomegranate works so well with the sweetness of the carrots. And then finished with our crunchy green crumb. This is going to be a real treat. Ooh. Wow. Honestly, I think that is my favorite way of cooking carrots. The tartness of the pomegranate molasses goes beautifully with these sweet and earthy carrots. And then that pistachio and pumpkin seed crumb adds a really nice crunch. It's moorish, it's nutty, it's got some freshness from the parsley and the lemon zest, and it just completely completes this side dish. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've got some inspiration for Christmas. If you're looking for a delicious centerpiece nut roast, then check out this video.